everyone, welcome to our webinar. It's delighted to host you and to see you here. Today we're talking about investing, working and living in Lisbon, one of the capitals of culture of Europe. Today in the room we have Chitra Stern, founder and CEO of Martinhal Hotels and Resorts and Residences, and of course the United Lisbon International School, which opened just less than 12 months ago. And of course, we also have Geoffrey Graham, senior partner of Edge International Lawyers, an expert in all things golden visa, non-habitual residency, and how incomers to Portugal can benefit from living here and in Lisbon. And of course, Miguel who is executive director of StartUp Lisbon, and really has devoted this part of his career to developing innovation in the technology sector. And we'll hear more about him, how he's supporting technology in Lisbon and how that can be relevant to you as well. Firstly, though, a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be posting some links in the chat box as well as we go through. And if you have any questions for the panelists, please do post them. And we'll be covering questions within the last 20 minutes of our discussion today. We're looking forward to a really exciting and vibrant few minutes hour ahead of us, and we're delighted that you can join us. If you want to link to any of our panelists, please do connect with them on LinkedIn or any of their other social media channels, but it would be great for you to drop a line as well to say that you were here at the webinar, just so that we remember, so that we know how we found you and how you found us. But let's get started today with Geoffrey. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your work and what you're doing there at Edge International Lawyers?
You're on mute.
Apologies, I know I was on mute. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, schoolboy here. It was a pleasure to be here on the panel with yourself and with Chitra and Miguel. I'm, as you said, senior partner with Edge International Lawyers. And I've been actually working, living, investing, if you like, in Lisbon, Portugal for the past 21 years. I'm a Portuguese abogado, I'm an English solicitor and an Irish solicitor. And we at Edge are very closely connected with the international communities here in Portugal through chambers of commerce and other organizations. And we really do specialize in providing both residency and tax solutions for international clients. But that doesn't mean that we just do residency and tax. We also deal with real estate and company commercial. We are a full service law firm. So generally speaking, you'll be able to see on our site that exactly what we do, www.edge-il.com. And very happy for you to contact me directly as well. The details will be posted later on the chat. So I think that it's been very interesting to see the evolution of our business in the past, I would say 5 to 6 years in particular, whereby we have very much a global client base now. And therefore that is reflected, I suppose, in the diversity and I suppose the profile of Lisbon as it is.
Thank you, Geoffrey. That's really a great introduction. Let's go to Chitra. Let's hear from Chitra, who really is the leading light of entrepreneurialism here in Lisbon, who understands how the country supports incomers like you. Chitra, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for the accolades, Kitty. But I feel humbled. My name is Chitra Stern, and with my husband, Roman Stern, we arrived in Portugal, in the Algarve initially, 20 years ago. This marks our 20th year in Portugal. Originally, we came for 5 years. We moved from London to here. I'm originally Singaporean, British in the meantime, married a Swiss guy from Zurich, so I'm Swiss, but we arrived in the Algarve 20 years ago for what was initially 5 years. And here we are 20 years later, having had 4 children in the meantime, who were all born in the Algarve. We moved to the Lisbon area in 2016 for investment purposes, and our businesses were growing in Lisbon. So we have 4 hotels under the Martinhal brand, which is all about luxury for families. We started in Sagres, and then we grew it into Quinta do Lago, and then Cascais on the west coast of Lisbon, Chiado in the heart of trendy and touristic Lisbon, Old Town Lisbon. And we're in the process of building our 5th Martinhal, which is a branded residences project in the Parque das Nações area on the east side of Lisbon, which is the background you see. And we're real estate developers. We've done commercial building, and we just opened a school. As you said, actually it was last September during the COVID pandemic. And we've got 150 kids in that school already, a United Lisbon International School. And we're building out the rest of the education hub, United Lisbon Edu Hub, which will welcome tech tenants, and it will have student accommodation and other accommodation for families looking for a landing pad, as well as teachers and their families in the future. So it's a whole ecosystem for education, co-living, co-learning, and a lifelong learning village that we're building there. So these are the projects. That's me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, but please add a note. And I think Geoffrey's email and website are already in the chat. So back to you, Kitty.
Thank you, Chitra. So Miguel, over to you. I think Miguel Fontes is Executive Director of StartUp Lisbon. You're really the face, I think, of our panel today for supporting tech entrepreneurialism. We'd love to hear a little bit about you, how you got into that field, and just tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Kitty. More than happy to share with all of you. Mute, always the same problem. Sorry for that. I will say thank you, Kitty. It's a pleasure to be today with all of you, and it's my pleasure to share, of course, what I'm doing here at StartUp Lisbon as an executive director. Just starting maybe for presenting StartUp Lisbon briefly. StartUp Lisbon, it's an incubator that was born almost 10 years ago, to be more precise, 9 years ago here in downtown of Lisbon, and it was born by the will of the citizens of Lisbon, because it was through the participatory budget that the citizens of Lisbon in that time, they voted and they decided to create an incubator here in downtown of Lisbon. And the city of Lisbon invite other entities to join the city to create a non-profit association to promote entrepreneurship, namely this kind of entrepreneurship very close to the startup world, the tech companies, and so on. And myself, I'm Miguel. I'm here for the last more than 5 years, since 2016. And my job is precisely to manage StartUp Lisbon, to be close to all the entrepreneurs and to help them to grow with their project, their ideas. And maybe after I can explain a little bit more how we do that. But for now, I think that's it. So thank you, Kitty.
Thanks, Miguel. So let's dive into our key topics today. And Geoffrey, I'm going to start with you, actually. There's so many different types of journeys that one can explore with getting citizenship, residency, and subsequent citizenship there, not only in Portugal, but Lisbon specifically. And that's really the main interest of one of our webinar today, because as we know, Golden Visa, for example, is due to come to an end at the end of the year for homes in Lisbon and other parts of Portugal, but we're focusing on Lisbon today. So Geoffrey, it'd be really great if you could help navigate us through the different visa opportunities available in Lisbon for those looking to relocate here, either purely to live or to set up their businesses here.
Okay, thanks, Kitty. I think I'm going to start really with a distinction here between tax residency and a residency title, being a right to reside. So having a residency title doesn't immediately imply that you become a tax resident. It's generally a two-stage process, which is acquire the residency title, then become a tax resident. But then not all residency titles require you to be a tax resident. And I'll come on to that in the sense of the Golden Visa itself, probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular type of residency visa that Lisbon and Portugal offers. Has minimum stay periods of 14 days over any 2 years. The visa itself is granted for two-year periods, and after 5 years is possible to apply for nationality. Therefore, as a result, that is actually a very good platform for investment and also free movement in Schengen, and also the ability to activate living in Portugal should an investor want to do so. You're right to say the program is changing at the end of the year, but it's not. It's changing, not ending. So as you said, I think it will be restricted in terms of the property investments that can be made, and therefore it still is possible to make investments of 500,000 and 350,000 in real estate, but generally outside of Lisbon and Porto and more of the interior areas. It's not all of the Algarve is excluded, for example, either. So therefore, we have even some clients launching projects in parts of the Algarve, which will not be excluded from as a result of the changes. But it's not just about real estate. We've got an increasing number of clients who are looking at a capital investment option, which is of 1 million, which will increase, in fact, to 1.5 million after the changes come into effect. Maybe one of the fastest growing areas is the investment funds, currently with the threshold of 350,000, which will increase to 500,000 after the changes come into place. But let's not forget things like research and development of 350,000. And if you wanted to be a benefactor of the arts, for example, there's the 250,000 threshold as well in order to be able to have a qualifying investment. Other options as well to start up a business, create 10 jobs or create 5 jobs with a 350,000 investment. So I think what we like about the Golden Visa, I think what our clients like is its transparency and is the fact that we can actually start the initial part of the process remotely. But it's not just Golden Visa. You know, Miguel's here from StartUp Lisbon. There's the Startup Visa, which is available as well. Miguel's already mentioned about the incubators, and that would be phase 1 of the process, actually being accepted by one of the incubators in terms of the investment. Step 2 being going through the if you like, the regular process through the immigration authorities here in Portugal on the basis of that acceptance. But also there are D7 and D2 visas. D7 visa having the facility to actually start that visa in your home country, whether that be through a consulate or indeed through one of the agencies. The visa being granted initially for 4 months on entry, and then continuing the process here in Portugal, generally having to show funds at something like 30,000 euros together with a regular income. Then finally on the D2 visa, this is more or less the same as the D7 visa, except for the fact that a company startup is required, together with payment of the director investor of a minimum salary of the minimum salary. The initial visa in the case of the startup, the D2 and the D7, is granted for 2 years with a renewal period of 3 years. So once you're in, you've got actually quite a lot of time to your investment to involve, and your love of the country, if you like, to involve at the same time. So I'll just finish by mentioning the non-habitual residency program. That's where I started, about the difference between tax and residency. Non-habitual residency program, probably one of the most successful tax residency programs worldwide. I would say that in the sense that provided that you position your income in the right way, or your income is positioned in the right way, your foreign income could be either tax-free or actually received at a preferential rate. So you can see from the array of programs available that the investor or the individual is almost spoiled for choice in terms of the program which they would select. But do take the right advice. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. Some of it is very helpful. Other information maybe doesn't give the full picture. So my recommendation, take the advice.
That's very helpful, Geoffrey. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions of my own, actually, following that. Do you find, I mean, Robert, Portugal and Lisbon really have one of the most valuable, well-regarded, notable visa programs available in the world today. And are you finding that it's appealing particularly to certain nationalities? Have you seen an increase from certain parts of the world coming in and asking for the different types of visas available to them? And are there any restrictions, by country?
I think that's in a way the beauty of it is the fact, for example, there's not a restriction on foreign property ownership within Portugal itself. And the fact of the matter, one of our biggest growth areas is North America at the moment, together with South Africa and the Gulf region. But let's not forget the UK as well, because I have to say that in a degree, a little bit to my surprise, I wasn't exactly sure how things were going to go post-Brexit, because having to find a residency solution as well as having an available tax solution, I felt could be an inhibitor. But actually, au contraire, I think we've seen a big growth from the UK in terms of potential applicants for either residency and tax solutions.
Okay, and do you find, what's the kind of real estate that they're looking for? What's the most popular visa that they're interested in of all the options available? D7, D2, non-habitual, golden. What do you find they're most looking for?
It's difficult to say, I have to say, Kitty. I think that ultimately, if you have the investor who's not necessarily looking to tax themselves to tax residency in Portugal, but wants an entry into the country and also potentially the rest of Europe, I think the golden visa is very popular because of the non-requirement to be a tax resident. I think we're seeing a big growth in the D7 simply because of the fact that it is a starting point for British, US, South African, Gulf region nationals in order to start living in Portugal, investing in Portugal. But I don't want to leave StartUp Lisbon out of this. Certainly talking to Miguel earlier before we started the session, he seems to be incredibly busy. So I think that augurs, extremely well for the startup scene in Lisbon, which is, something which Miguel will talk about, but it's something which has increased exponentially in the past few years.
And presumably, no matter which route you go down, once you're qualified, you have free access to the Schengen area. Can you work freely in any of those countries as well and retain Lisbon or Portugal as your base?
Not in any of the countries. You're not permitted to work. It gives you the right to work in Portugal, live in Portugal, and free travel in Schengen. But yes, those are some of the restrictions as regards working in other European countries.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Chitra, I think, please.
Before you ask me the question, I'd just like to add to what Geoffrey was saying. We have to bear in mind the development of the Golden Visa and NHR has been over years now, really since 2013. So, when you ask questions about nationality, there were different nationalities that were interested in different years, and some still continue to be interested. So it's a multitude of nationalities that we're talking about from different countries for the Golden Visa. It was the simplicity of buying a piece of real estate and then, processing the residency, which helped. And you will get, you have the chance to get nationality at the end of 6 years, which is another differentiator. That made people. So after you do that, then to work somewhere else opens up, not during the residency. And I think the D7 has been a much more popular thing coming up more recently compared to the first 6 years of a lot of it was Golden Visa. I mean, Geoffrey, correct me if I'm wrong. And NHR, I think, started around 2014, to really develop, and is still popular.
Yeah, I think Golden Visa, I would tend to agree with you. I think that is the beauty of it, is that after any of the 5-year initial terms, if you like, there's a possibility to apply for nationality, and therefore being able to freely work after nationality in Europe. So the non-habitual residency program has seen exponential growth, I would say, in the past sort of 4 to 5 years or so. So one of the great things about these programs is that they don't, discriminate on grounds of nationality. So the non-habitual residency program, for example, is open to Portuguese too. So provided they've been outside Portugal for 5 years. So I think it's very non-discriminatory type of programs which are available. I think, Miguel, you probably agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chitra, if we turn to you for a few moments, you've really brought, you've started your family here. You've not only given birth to, 4 children, but also to a thriving hospitality business and now residences. It's quite unusual for a developer, either in hospitality or real estate or commercial real estate even, to then take the leap into education. And I think you really are one of the few to do that. What prompted you and the business to set up United Lisbon International School and really take part of the EduHub?
First of all, what I didn't mention in my intro was that I worked for the Foreign Direct Investment Task Force called Portugal In, for 3 years, from 2017 to the end of 2019. It was a small task force reporting to the Prime Minister's office and working alongside, the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Tourism, as well as incubators. That's how I got to know Miguel, as well as Startup Portugal. So we were there to help, and I was the foreigner on the task force, a foreign entrepreneur who'd been here for many years and saw things slightly differently, to help remove the barriers to foreign direct investment and to promote all the great things about Portugal. And that's when I did a TEDx talk as well. Please do look it up. If you search up Chitra Stern TEDx, or somebody will put it on the chat, you'll find out why Portugal is so great for all kinds of investment and moving, relocation. I also did a, why Portugal will be trending post-COVID talk exactly a year ago with Geoffrey, actually, by coincidence. And it'll be interesting for viewers to compare, what we said then, and we still stand by it now. So, so making the transition to the school, we are real estate developers, and, we brought the Martinhal brand to other assets in the years when Portugal was in bailout. There were opportunities with banks who, were looking for solutions for their NPAs and NPLs, non-performing assets and non-performing loans. And, we're sort of turnaround managers, we first of all chose only the best locations within Portugal. We looked at over 200 projects, I'd say. And we, at that time, we also realized, during my time with the Portugal Foreign Direct Investment Task Force, realized that the lack of international schools is actually a barrier to families coming over to Lisbon. Whether you're talking about the startup scene being developed, or whether you're talking about headquarters relocating to Lisbon, or you're talking about golden visa investments where you actually want, the people to come and live here ultimately. So the lack of international spaces and international schools was a barrier, and the lack of international schools in the heart of Lisbon was a barrier. There was, at that time in 2017, when we started conceiving this idea of the United Lisbon International School, there was just the Deutsche Schule, the German school, which had a German curriculum, and Charles Lepier, the Lycée Français, which has a French curriculum. And there was nothing else in central Lisbon, for historical reasons, because the original wealth was, you know, the wealthy families were living out in the western side of Lisbon, in Cascais. That's where a lot of international schools had grown. And, you know, it was sort of the blue ocean, red ocean strategy as well. You know, we as developers want to build unique products and differentiated products. And we saw a gaping hole in central Lisbon, the lack of an international school. And then, you know, like any developer, the rest is sort of kismet, because we, around that time, we then saw this building that was for sale and the surrounding buildings for sale. They were both for sale by different banks, and we had to put them together. We were trying to address with the second acquisition the problems of education for the future. So, you know, the international school, a standalone international school is one thing, but then to be part of an education ecosystem and lifelong learning is a whole other ball game for its students. So, you know, any company we're attracting to the Education Hub will have to contribute to this ecosystem by offering shadowing projects, internship projects to the students. The students get to learn about entrepreneurship. You know, it's one of the pillars, two of the pillars we're really focusing on in our school are entrepreneurship and tech, you know. And so, you know, we are able to then get our kids to learn much more and much earlier about entrepreneurship with direct contact with these companies. So that's how the idea was born. Obviously, as with any entrepreneurial project, to bring an idea to reality. I mean, the execution is the hardest part. We worked for 4 years, and none of us expected COVID to happen, but hey ho, it did happen. And the 6-month lead up to us opening the school was exciting, to say the least, in a positive way. Actually, it was a nightmare, but we're very proud to say that we actually opened the school against all odds. And we got our first 150 kids. And now we're focusing, you know, it's a kindergarten to grade 12 school, but we only open till grade 9. And now we're building up grades 10, 11, and 12. We'll be an IB. We'll offer the IB diploma for the last 2 years. We're based on the Common Ground Collaborative, and we will be accredited by the NIASC, which has the basis, its base in America. And again, a differentiated product for an international school. And we named it United Lisbon because we truly believe that global problems can only be solved through global cooperation. And so that's another one of the sort of principles, that the guiding principles for the school in operation. So here you have it. It was a long story, but that's how we got into, it's a, you know, diversification, red ocean, blue ocean, a key anchor project for the city of Lisbon for future foreign direct investment. I mean, you know, all these boxes are ticked. So, and, you know, we have 4 kids as well who've been in international schools in Portugal. We know that market very well, but we brought in the experts to help us kickstart the school, do the business plan. International School Services from Princeton, New Jersey was by our side for the pre-opening as well as the first year of operation. So far. So yeah, I think we've put a great team together through all that. So thank you.
That's amazing. I'm particularly interested in the fact that there's a tech emphasis on it, because many captains of industry, they find that the traditional educational system doesn't bring out people with the skills that they need for tomorrow's future or tomorrow's workplace. So personally, I think it's quite interesting that you've hammered in on tech for that. Can you tell us a little bit more about, Microsoft Pathways and how the tech is developing?
Yeah, there's a lot in there, and we don't have enough time to cover it, but there are some videos where I've talked about it. We will be a Microsoft Showcase school, where we're on the pathway to becoming a Microsoft Showcase school. We've got a tech lead, and we've got a makerspace. The tech lead is teaching kids, Minecraft for education, which actually has a huge sustainability element to it. It's cross-disciplinary. It teaches math, science, as well as architecture. We've got programmable parrot drones, we've got spheros, we've got bee-bots, you know, and kids come in with requests to do 3D coding for 3D printing. I mean, there's a lot on the tech side. I can't even, you know, go into it, but it's not just that. It's about the future skills that are needed, identified by the World Economic Forum, Education 4.0. What are they in the future with artificial intelligence and machine learning coming up quickly? Kids need to have collaborative skills, project management skills, you know, empathy, you know, awareness of the world around them, sustainability. So there are various pillars that we're building the school on, and we're working very hard on the future of employment. I know there's another webinar I participated in, you know, someone could share that on the chat, just about this topic, about the future of work and the future of learning. So lots to say, Kitty.
and it's great. I mean, it's great. It's a whole other field to dive into. So for our lovely listeners out there and watchers, on the chat panel, there are some really strong links as well to follow up on for all the topics that we're discussing. And then, of course, be in your digital goodie bag at the end of it for some light watching and reading and listening later. So, Miguel, please tell us about you and Startup Lisboa. I'd be really interested about how the program came into being. And also, you talk quite fully about the 5 pillars that Startup Lisboa intends to offer for its students, clients, among those being mentorship, community, and really navigating the way to investment through finding the right partners, investment partners. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how these 5 pillars impact the work that you do and what you're finding is the most valuable of those to your clients and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, for sure. So, Kitty, as you said, our main mission is precisely to support entrepreneurs. So how we do that? I used to say that we work in 5 pillars, as you mentioned, and it's the best way that I have to describe in concrete terms what we do, because sometimes people, they do a misunderstanding about what means an incubator, and they think it's more related with the real estate role, and it's not indeed. So our value proposition, it's basically explained by these 5 pillars. The first of all is for sure to have always a very good network of mentors. So mentorship, it's very important for entrepreneurs, for the entrepreneurs. And what we try to do is to curate a very good network of mentors. That means people that are available in a pro bono mode to support entrepreneurs when and where they need it. That means that be someone with a lot of expertise in technology, in concrete, or in a market, or because he or she has a great network, or for any other reason. So that means it's not a tutorial relationship. It's not the same. It's not a tutor. It's not a tutorial relationship, but it's someone that through the journey, it's always there to support the entrepreneur with some tips, with some knowledge, and it's very important in this world. Secondly, I would say that we try to do the same with what we call strategic partners, because we are working with tech companies, namely. Of course, we established a few partnerships with all the great tech companies that we know, of course, Amazon Web Service, Microsoft, Google, Cisco, and so on. But not only, also with, for instance, with law firms. And imagine we have always some law firms that are here at Startup Lisboa, promoting what we call office hours, where when the entrepreneurs have the chance, to meet a lawyer and to start speaking about a particular issue that they want to clarify. Can be the intellectual property, can be term sheets of an investment, can be human resources, doesn't matter. Of course, when the relations becomes more professional, what they have is better conditions to access that kind of service. But if it's only one single question, like that kind of stuff, they always have that kind of support provided by ourselves. So I told you about mentors, about partners. The third pillar, I would say, it's about communication. We try to use our brand, Startup Lisbon, to promote our portfolio of startups. And what we do is we use namely our social networks to promote our startups, and it's part of our job. And you know that when they are starting, of course, the awareness, it's very critical, it's very important for everyone. So we try to promote them in the community, in the market. And also, because it's a traditional part of the job of an incubator, we try to do the right match between the investors and the entrepreneurs, because we know both, and we know when a startup is in the looking for money, is in trying to find the right investor, can be a business angel if it's capital, or already VC if it's something a little bit more sophisticated already, Series A, for instance. And we know the investors, so we know what they are looking for. We know that some of them, they are just looking to invest in, imagine, to be business-to-business models. Others, they don't mind to invest in B2C business models. Others, they are agnostic about technology. Others, they are not. So we try to create, to promote efficiency in this relationship, because we know the thesis of investment that they have, and we know the needs of the startups. And finally, our fifth pillar, I would say, is for sure the most distinctive, and at least we try to do our best in that sense, is community. We really believe in this concept of build a community of entrepreneurs, not only because it's a generous or beautiful idea to promote a kind of community, but because it's the best way that we know that we have to accelerate the go-to-market. And this is very clear. I can give you one or two examples to be concrete. Imagine that we are starting and you need to start working with the software for sales. And of course, you are looking always, when you are in a startup, for the best solution, the cheapest, and so on and so on. And if you have the chance to share this kind of needs that you have in the right community, of course, you will have always the support of other entrepreneurs, and doesn't matter that they are working in different business model and different industries with other kind of technologies, but at the end of the day, they have almost the same kind of needs, the same kind of problems, they face the same kind of challenge. So if we can create and build the right environment where people, they feel trust to share, and share is a critical concept in our world, of course, we'll avoid that they don't need to spend so many time looking for that kind of resource, that kind of solutions. And in the startup world, time is probably the most important asset that you have, because of course, when you are thinking about a new problem and you are trying to solve it with a new solution, you are not alone in the world. And for instance, I don't know where, but for sure someone had the same idea and is trying to solve the same problem. So the question is, who will be in better position to succeed to solve that problem? And as you know, until you have something, nobody is really, nobody cares about your business. So you need to have traction to show to someone, namely to the investor. So in the first times, you are fighting against time. You need to be the faster in the market to build a solution precisely to get the attention from investors, because you are trying to solve a problem with an innovative solution. So we as an incubator, we try to do all these stuffs. And of course, on top of that, for a few of them, we can provide also some office in downtown of Lisbon. And it's very nice, of course, because we are very well located here in Lisbon, but it's not about space. It's not about real space, our job. Our job, it's about what I said before. Real estate, it's part of the job, but it's not what defines an incubator, at least as we see that.
Are you finding that there's particular trends emerging from the people who come to you seeking your help? Are they developing into certain areas of new arenas, new industries, or are there new skills you're finding that they're demonstrating in the people that you work with?
Yeah, it's a very diverse ecosystem. It's not easy to describe or define it only with the single way. That I mean, we have here people doing different kind of stuffs, working in different sector of activities through different technologies. And for instance, we have people that are building some marketplace. Others, they are developing deep tech solutions, namely through AI and machine learning. In terms of business models, we have a software as a service company. We have a marketplace. It's really diverse, the kind of environment that we have. And what we know that what we are attracting at this moment in Lisbon is talent people that are looking for other talent people that are already based here in Portugal and in Lisbon. And that's why we are looking for, more than be focused in this or other fields. What we want is to attract more and more talent people. And because we think that here we have all you need to build your business, to build your startup. And that's why we are here working every single day. That's precisely to attract the best entrepreneurs and to invite them to come to Portugal if they are abroad, or if they are here, to support them to do their projects.
Thank you, Miguel. I'm aware that time is racing on ahead of us, you'd have thought. And we do have a few questions coming in. And this one is for Geoffrey, specifically on the D7 visa and how to qualify. And presumably Edge is able to help with that whole process.
Thanks, Kitty. Yes, we are able to help with the whole process. Interestingly, with the D7 visa, it does start in the country of residence, and therefore an application is made either to the consulate, embassy, or indeed one of the agencies, if there's an affiliated agency. Generally speaking, it is a collection of documents and filing of documents exercise, where effectively, which include documents such as proof that you have actually sufficient funds to sustain yourself, which tends to be in the region of about 30,000 euros. The fact that actually you do have a place to live in Portugal as well, and that can be a place where you're renting, and indeed that you have a clean criminal record. So those are some of the documents which are involved. It's actually the applicant himself or herself who goes to the first appointment. And it's at that first appointment that they are effectively submitting the documents together with answering any other further questions. And what we tend to do is we support them within that first appointment, in the sense that make sure they're fully prepared in terms of any documents that are being asked for. After that, generally speaking, a 4-month visa is issued. And using that 4-month visa, they enter Portugal. And then after that, continue the process locally here in Portugal with the immigration authorities, CEF, whereby, for example, eventually at an appointment, the biometric data will be taken. Again, this is something with which we assist together with actually seeking to schedule appointments. So we guide, I suppose, effectively the applicant throughout the entire process. Interestingly, I see a couple of questions there on the Q&A. whereby is it the same as a retirement visa? It has sometimes been called a retirement visa, yes, the D7, but it's not just for the retired. So therefore, it is a lot of working people are actually actioning it. And one of the other questions I saw in the chat, which may be of interest to Miguel as well, is that there's a Portuguese emigre living in apparently the happiest country in Europe. Is Denmark really the happiest country in Europe? And effectively in 10 years, he's been there for 10 years and is looking potentially to return to his homeland. So I thought it was very interesting what Miguel was saying at the end in terms of those opportunities, and the type of people who you're dealing with right now, and obviously attracting to Portugal to invest in Portugal with exciting startup projects. So I think it's quite a nice opportunity for that individual. Certainly as far as the tax program is concerned, he's got the opportunity to benefit from either exemptions or preferential rates of tax. So long answer to short question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to that answer, Geoffrey. I mean, we're seeing a rise in, we have long-term rentals in Chiado and Cascais in our apart hotel, 5-star apart serviced apartments in the center of Lisbon, as well as the houses, 2-bedroom houses that we have in Cascais. For a D7 compliant visa and NHR compliant visa, and not just from the retired market at all. It's really from families, young families as well, who are putting their kids into school, doing a rental for 6 months to a year, whatever it is, for it to be a D7 compliant visa to satisfy the requirements by CEF. And in addition, digital nomads, I know there's questions about digital nomads moving here. They can move here with a D7 or a D2 if you're starting up a business, or a golden visa. I mean, there's so many options open for digital nomads. If it's a mature company looking for a large space, I mean, we've just got the Atlantic, yesterday we just launched, Monday, the Atlantic Station arriving at our Edu Hub that receives Brazilian businesses of all sizes and helps them settle into Portugal, and in Lisbon particularly, obviously. There are large businesses that want to use Lisbon as a springboard into the rest of Europe as well. Move to Lisbon and then use Lisbon as a base to expand their business into Europe. And there are a lot of Brazilian companies coming in. So there's a variety of things happening out there, and this hour isn't enough. So just wanted to add these two things there and answer a couple of the questions. And in reply to, is Lisbon better than Copenhagen? I must say, I love living in Lisbon. There's so many reasons why it's the best place, the most trendy city on earth. And the most important reason for me, actually, apart from the lifestyle, the sunshine and the international schools, etc., is that it's the perfect size capital city in Europe. For me, it fits the Goldilocks principle. It's just right. It's not too big. It's not a sprawling metropolis, and neither is it a small European capital. It has amazing access, flight routes to everywhere. It's in the same time zone as London and Dublin, which often people don't realize. It's very easy to navigate around Lisbon. And it happens because it happens to be the trendiest city because there's been a lot of work put into it over 20 years or more, for the infrastructure and restaurants, everything that's great, the biking paths, the running paths. I mean, there's just so much to talk about, but sorry, I'll hand over now.
But I think actually that's quite an interesting segue, really, is how Portugal is now faring with the pandemic and what's happening on the street. Is it opening up? What's happening with flight routes? What's happening? What does that mean for your various businesses and general internationals coming in?
I mean, we're in the hospitality industry as well, you know, which has been tough for 12 months, I won't lie. But the good news is that, you know, the number of cases has been going down steadily. We did have, you know, a big problem at the end of January. We went to another lockdown, but the good news is that it's been very quickly, in my opinion, controlled, and people are very respectful, wearing their masks in various places. We have been through a roadmap of opening the economy step by step, opening the terraces of restaurants, opening the inside of restaurants, opening the shopping centers, you know, increasing, you know, presence in the offices, etc. And so opening schools, you know, for the younger children first and the older children. And it's all gone well since, I think it was the 19th of April that it started. I mean, somebody can correct me, but, you know, we've been step by step opening the economy. And the good news is that the numbers are well under control. The vaccination program is actually, we've got great results compared to other European countries. Obviously, there was a problem with the supply of vaccines, but, you know, we all know Pfizer is an American pharmaceutical company, and AstraZeneca is British Swedish. So the supply was slow to come, but now with lots of different supplies, you know, coming in, the rollout is happening very nicely in Portugal. And on the Secretary of State of Tourism has announced that on the 17th of May, anyone with the proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test or a serum test showing that you've had COVID will be allowed to come in, whether it's for business purposes or leisure purposes. So it's imminent that in 2 weeks' time that we will see a comeback again. And, you know, if you're planning your trips, plan them. You know, we've got the flights returning again, you know, various flights from different countries have been announced. We're waiting to get an air bridge with the UK. Obviously, we only got 2 weeks last year, but, you know, we're still hopeful that this year we will get a longer time for the air bridge. But yeah, I think it's positive news. I know Geoffrey, and if you want to add something about the COVID situation, I don't know what, you know, your experience share is. And, you know, sorry, one more thing to add is what we've seen, even through COVID, you know, people, obviously, some people were postponing their decisions, but they're really, you know, concretizing their, if that's a word in English, their move now because they can fly over, have a look. But even during the last 12 months, we saw, you know, we sold 30 apartments through video viewings on FaceTime or WhatsApp audio, WhatsApp videos. They were giving lawyers their power of attorney to sign on the contract. So it's another amazing thing for good products. I'm pleased to say, you know, this has continued even in the last 12 months. Hopefully very soon with, you know, the Americans and the Brits being vaccinated and other countries slowly getting vaccinated, we'll see a comeback soon. Sorry, over to you, Geoffrey.
Not at all. I think it's, I suppose, just a reflection of the positivity in the sense that, you know, Portugal's in pretty good shape on the past 7 days. It's the country with the second lowest number of new cases, and it's actually got the lowest mortality rate within Europe. Vaccination program, as you say, Chitra, has been rolled out very successfully. 25% of the population has already had the first jab. And from next week, it's programmed to have 100,000 vaccinations per day being actually distributed. So Portugal has very much put itself as having the infrastructure there in order to distribute the high level of vaccines. Also, the fact that travel in Europe and between Schengen countries, provided that in fact that country has less than 150 cases per 100,000. Land border with Spain is opened already. So I think that it's positive from the perspective of shaping up for welcoming back both both tourist and business visitors and investors. And of course, if you already have a residency title here in Portugal, then you can actually come back too. So we're doing invitation letters for essential travel, which facilitates entry of investors, which is also pretty encouraging. So I think that we're certainly on the right track as far as exit from lockdown is concerned.
That's great, thank you. We've probably got time just for a couple of more questions. And moving on nicely from healthcare, I'm wondering, Miguel, if there are any specific sectors that the government is particularly supportive of to encourage entrepreneurialism or new industry. Is there an area that they're really strong on encouraging?
To be honest, I would say not really. I think it's much more organic what we are seeing instead of a decision from someone saying, oh, let's put our energy in this sector instead of this one. No, not really. Of course, when you look through Imagine to Portugal Ventures, that is a VC managing with public funds, you can find a few critical sector of investments, and they are, of course, more aligned with the hospitality industry, tourism, but also with healthcare and life science. So it's really a mix. And I would prefer to answer that saying, everyone can come to join us in Portugal, doesn't matter. It's a fintech, a life science project, a retail one. What's really important for us is to build an innovative community of entrepreneurs. So what we are always looking, all of us, is for innovation. And when you have it, doesn't matter what you are trying to do in terms of disruption of the market where you are. If it's a good project, a good idea with a great team, please join us. That's what we are looking for. And let me say that for that, here at Startup Lisbon, we decided a few years ago, to be more concrete since November 2017, to start a program, a soft landing program called Launch in Lisbon. That is was designed to help people there are now thinking, should I stay? Should I go? What about Portugal? What about Lisbon? It could be a very good opportunity for me to move, to open my business there, to work there. And we design a program that it's a very intensive 3 days program. And we establish a few partnerships with a few partners. And what we try to do in these 3 days is to give you an overview about all the dimensions that we are now discussing in this webinar. For instance, about, of course, visas, about the real estate situation, about the labor market, about educational, about the ecosystem itself. So the idea is precisely in 3 days to give you an overview about what you can find here in Portugal, namely in Lisbon. And the next edition, let me have my advertising moment. It will be in June, 16 to 18 of June, and it will be, because of the pandemic situation that we are facing, it will be totally digital. That means that it's probably great because you don't need to come to be part of that, and you just need to go to our website, startuplisboa.com, and you will find in programs Launch in Lisbon, a soft landing. It's a very easy process to jump in, and please join us if you want to know a little bit more in detail about Lisbon and about Portugal.
Fantastic. Well, we can put that in the chat, all the details, so that
I was just going to say, you don't have to call it an advertising moment. You know, that's fantastic, Miguel, that you joined us for this chat. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on the chat. Put it up on the chat as well. It's 16th to 18th of June. Put it in your calendars and try to join Miguel. I would say we will save the chat and make sure it's part of the goodie bag that you receive after the event, so that nothing is missed out. I mean, there's so many questions, it's hardly enough time to cover. You know, we are also, just to add, you know, that we're around 2/3 sold off plan already in Martinhal residences. That was one of the questions that came to me. And I mean, there's so many others about special needs in the school. Please approach our education team through info@unitedlisbon.school or admissions at unitedlisbon.school. You know, they will guide you through, you know, ask you all the questions that need to be asked and see whether we can, we do have some special needs children in the school. So please do approach us. You know, it's amazing to see all these different questions, but I can't assimilate all of them. So over back to you, Kitty, sorry.
Well, no, in fact, just as you're talking about that, we've had a message pop through that says, non-solicited piece of feedback from United Lisbon. Our 2 children are there and they really love it. The staff are wonderful. So bravo, bravo.
Thank you so much, whoever it is. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate your endorsement. Thank you.
So really, I want to thank everyone, obviously our illustrious group of panelists here, and for all our joiners-inners. And lastly, to wish you a happy International Portuguese Language Day, which happens this day every year, where we celebrate 250,000 Portuguese speakers around the world. So really another bit of Portugal's understated superpowers, I think, on the world stage. And really, as an outsider, I'm always quite, I remark often at how forward-thinking the government is about setting these processes in place to make Portugal and Lisbon really a welcoming country for incomers, and it's testament to its robustness, its economy, forward-thinking. It's very impressive.
I'd just like to add on that note, you got 2 foreigners who've lived here for more than 20 years. I think Geoffrey arrived in 1998. Did I remember that correctly? No.
99, almost
99,
there.
99. Now I shall remember. It's the year after Expo, the World Expo taking place in Lisbon. And I moved in 2001 with my husband, as I said, and we had 4 children here. That it is, the most open, tolerant, liberal society I've ever lived in. And people are, the secret of Portugal is not just the government incentives, which they're very forward thinking to come up with, as well as the flexibility to address changing times. But it's people like Miguel and others who are so welcoming of foreigners. English is so widely spoken here, and they welcome people of different religions, creeds, and colors. Into their society. And it's one of the things that's usually never mentioned as one of the key selling points, but I always bring this up because it's little discussed, but it's an amazing place to live in. So thank you, Miguel, and thank you to all the Portuguese.
Wonderful. So we'll be we obviously have track of all the questions which our panelists can answer individually. There's some really good stuff that's come up in the question box. And obviously we want to thank you for being an engaging audience today. And of course, any questions that you wish to direct specifically to Miguel, Chitra, or Geoffrey, please do. You can all get them through LinkedIn, and do send a note that you were here with the webinar.
Yeah,
so
that would help. I get LinkedIn requests and I do not accept them if I don't know who they are, so please do add a note to the LinkedIn request with your question. I'd be happy to answer them for sure.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, and looking forward to seeing you on the next time.
Thank you all so much for attending. No, fantastic to have you here. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you, Miguel. And thank you, Kitty. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cheerio. Bye-bye. Till next time.